Okay, so today I'm going to review a Bluetooth speaker from 1byone, but since you can already see it here in the frame, it is quite obvious that this is not the typical kind of Bluetooth speaker we are usually used to. This is a completely different kind of beast, and one definitely worth taking a closer look at it. And here we can see it in its full size and glory, and if you compare it with something more regular size, you will see that the control unit on its own is already as big as this one. And with 4.9 kilograms, it is quite obvious this is not meant to be very portable, especially since it doesn't work off of batteries. It will need DC power all the time. On the back we can see standby mode options, standard and power saver. Didn't really bother to use power saver, I use standard all the time. And on the bottom we can see the 4 feet along with the base ports. If I lift it up again, you will see that it does wobble a little bit, but you can easily correct that. But otherwise it is built really nicely, very sturdy, with the nice leather finish here. Of course it's fake leather, and with the grill here that looks very old school on the front. Now in terms of this control panel, you will see that we have an LED for Bluetooth, for power status, we have an on and off switch, we have a backwards button, forward button and play and pause that also works as pair, and the forward button for the wake option. The 3 knobs are for volume, bass and treble. I would recommend you to do one thing: set the volume to 1 notch above the default level of the middle. Why, I will get into just a little bit later. The bass I took a little bit down and the treble I raised a little bit, but this is with this volume. And I usually used it on the Bluetooth device with around 40 to maybe 80%, because you don't need it really any louder. And before I'm going to talk about the sound, let me quickly get into one thing that I just want to cover. Let's plug it in and let's turn it on. And one thing that you might could maybe hear, but you won't due to the microphone, is that there is a little bit of some buzz noise, because I think the electrical shielding could have been improved a little bit. And this gets quite obvious if we do the following thing. If we put in the aux cable, you will hear quite some buzz, but don't get too abstracted about it, because if you plug it in your device, this is completely gone, and then things are fine. So don't bother too much about that. But one thing that I still wanna point out, why you should put it 1 notch above the volume middle, is the following reason. If you set it lower, there will be some hum from the speaker audible. If you put it higher, there will be a little bit of a buzz. This is not really loud, and I could demonstrate it and you won't hear it. See, you won't, because you have to be like, let's say, within half a meter of that and listen to it very closely in a silent room. Otherwise you won't hear it. I did it first, but it actually got better over time, so this is quite nice to see. But just to keep in mind, and you will not really need to get any higher in terms of volume. Why? Let's talk about the sound to cover that. Like I said, I used it within about 40 to 80% of Bluetooth volume, and this is of the 50%. So we are talking about maybe 30-40% of maximum volume, because this thing gets seriously loud. And I wanted to make a sound demo, but it just doesn't make any sense, because it's so close to my microphone and it wouldn't really give you the original sound at all. So don't really bother too much about it. You will have to trust me on what I have to say about the sound. Out of the box, as you have seen, since I have to change some things about the bass and treble, it is not quite neutral. The bass was a little bit too thick, but there were mostly trebles missing. So just raise them a little bit, take maybe a little bit bass off, depending on your personal preferences. But I have to say, the sound on its own is actually really nicely balanced, because it's never thin or weak, but it's also not extremely warmer. So if I would call it quite neutral, on the slightly warmer side, which is definitely something that I prefer, and they definitely did a very nice balancing here. And overall I have to say, the bass is very nice and punchy. It's not extremely precise, which wasn't really to be expected, but the highs are very clear. And I wouldn't really say you won't miss out on any details, because after all, this is a Bluetooth speaker first and foremost. Okay, you can use it with the aux in, but this definitely works out. So just to get to the point, I really like the sound. It is definitely well worth the $100. There are different options. For example, there is a brand called Marshall that makes very similar ones in terms of looks. I can't really judge those, but they are usually like double the price, if not on sale. But like I said already, I have to point out the electrical shielding doesn't seem to be the very best one, because there is a noticeable hum or buzz sometimes audible. But if you don't use it like I do, close to my bed at about maybe 60 centimeters away, you should not bother about it, because the moment you are at least 1 meter off of it, have it anywhere in the room, you won't hear any of that sound, and then things are fine because the sound quality is really good. The one thing that I have to point out though, you should be a little bit further away from it because the separation of it isn't the best, because it's such a big speaker, and the closer you have it to you, you can definitely locate where the sound comes from. On a smaller speaker like this one, usually it's more of a surrounding sound and you don't really notice where it is. But if this is kind of in the middle of the room or a little bit further away, this is not of any concern again. So for the price of around $99, if nothing has changed, it is definitely not bad. But like I said, consider the shielding to maybe be a problem for you if you have it very close to your bed. But I bothered about it for the first few weeks, but then again, actually, once I had it for longer, I didn't really notice it anymore. But I have very sensitive ears to my tinnitus, so maybe I'm a special kind of person here in that regard. But this is pretty much all I have to say about it. Definitely not a bad product, and I can't really compare it to anything else in this size range, but the sound definitely knows to deliver, and that's all I have to say. And otherwise, you know all the rest, and you know what else you should do. Have a nice day. Until next time. Bye.